Eliud Kipchoge versus Kelvin Kiptum. This is the marathon matchup that everyone around the world wants to watch. Now, it used to be Kipchoge versus Kenenisa Bekele, and we are still awaiting this incredible matchup that could go down. But over the past 2 or 3 years, it's really developed more into Kipchoge dominating and Kelvin Kiptum rapidly rising onto the marathon scene. Now, Kelvin Kiptum is still only 23 years of age, and he's only raced over the marathon twice, but for both of his performances, he has broken 2 hours and 2 minutes, running a time of 2:01:25 in this year's London Marathon. This man is dropping some unbelievable performances over the marathon distance, and to do it with so little experience is just mind-boggling. And his potential matchup with Eliud Kipchoge is just out of this world exciting. Now, I am sure that all of you are very familiar with the man himself, Eliud Kipchoge. There are honestly too many accolades to list off in just one video, or else it would be an hour long. But to put it simply, he's the 2-time Olympic marathon champion over the marathon, he's the current world record holder, he's largely regarded as the absolute greatest marathoner of all time, and he just might be the most exciting marathon athlete of all time as well. Now, one of the big reasons why this matchup has gotten so much traction recently is because of what Eliud Kipchoge did in this year's Boston Marathon, and a very, very rare occurrence. In fact, he only managed to finish in 6th, finishing in just under 2 hours and 10 minutes. Just after the 30-kilometer mark of this race, he pretty much hit a wall and wasn't able to respond to the acceleration of the other athletes. And later after the race, he would explain that he was unable to lift his left leg, which, going up the final hills of Boston, most certainly added some difficulties to his running. Now, the reason that we're talking about Eliud Kipchoge versus Kelvin Kiptum today is that recently Kelvin Kiptum was not placed as one of the athletes in this year's World Championships over the marathon distance. And in a few separate articles, they expressed a lot of surprise at this announcement, as they assumed that one of Kenya's best athletes would be in the World Championships. But when it comes to the marathon, this is actually not that big of a surprise, because the big races that athletes chase as marathon runners are the marathon majors. As they're more competitive, they add a lot more money, both in prize money and in appearance fees. And the reason that this is such exciting news is that Kelvin Kiptum very well could be headed to Berlin this season, and the world record of Kipchoge could very much be in danger. Honestly, given his incredible performances in both Valencia and in London, he is more than ready to break 2 hours and 1 minute. I really think that is possible, but only adding to this potential world record run from Kelvin Kiptum is the small but real possibility that Eliud Kipchoge could jump into this year's Berlin Marathon once again. And if this incredible clash goes down, there's going to be some extraordinary hype building up to this. And let me be the first to say, if these two run in the same marathon, the world record is going to fall. In fact, I think they would run well under 2 hours and 1 minute together. And this race, looking at it on paper, could be the kind of marathon record that finally does stand for close to a decade, as we're looking at something that could combine two incredible forces in one perfect moment. Now, Kiptum's recent marathon running has showcased incredible negative splits, as he threw down a second-half marathon of 59:45 at this year's London Marathon. And he also ran a similar kind of race in last year's Valencia Marathon, running a big negative split in that race as well. In contrast to Kipchoge's world record, where he ran the opening half in 59:51, he ran his second half in just outside of 1 hour and 1 minute. But here's the thing about Kipchoge. He is always augmenting his running, he is always fixing what needs fixing, and he's always coming back. In fact, he recently expressed in an article, which I'll make sure to link down below, is that this year's Boston Marathon was certainly a complicated race, and he certainly didn't run like he wanted to. But in life, if you fall, you just need to get back up. Now, if you'll remember, back in 2020, he placed 8th in the London Marathon, and following this rather subpar performance, he came back in 2021 even stronger, winning that year's Olympic Games marathon by a pretty big margin. And this performance really made him the absolute greatest ever. He became one of only 3 athletes to ever win the marathon twice in the Olympics. He also won this by a huge margin once again, and for this marathon, he was 36 years of age, which really showcases incredible longevity for this athlete. With so much rapid world record history happening in the marathon over the previous 2 decades, I think that the lesson that we have learned is that it is very important to go out fast, but not too fast to break a world record. And if Kelvin Kiptum and Eliud Kipchoge do run together and go out for their first half marathon in about 1 hour and 30 seconds to potentially 1 hour and 20 seconds, I think that together they are going to run something insane over the second half. And honestly, on paper, if they go out like this, Kelvin Kiptum just might have the advantage here. But you really can't ever count out Kipchoge. In fact, that is a sin in the marathon world. Here's one final thing that I will say. There has been a a lot of speculation as to exactly what Kipchoge is going to do for his next marathon. And while he has expressed a lot of interest in winning all 6 marathon majors, and the only 2 that he has remaining are both Boston and New York. So really at this point, his next race is either going to be New York or Berlin in 2023. But if Kipchoge decided to run in Berlin once again, I feel like that would be such a baller statement. And I really do think that if he does that, he is going to run something very fast once again. He went out slightly too fast last season, clearly going after the sub 2-hour marathon in a real race. And while I do think the sub 2-hour marathon is likely to happen in a real marathon over the next 10 or 15 years, I just don't think it's quite possible right now. But if there is a 1% chance at this happening, it just might be possible with Kelvin Kiptum and Eliud Kipchoge right now. And there is no better place in the world than Berlin to achieve this. And now I want to hear from all of you. What do you think is going to happen in this year's Berlin Marathon? Is Kipchoge going to run? Is Kiptum going to make an announcement? Are we set to see another world record? And who would win in this showdown between Kelvin Kiptum and Eliud Kipchoge? Leave your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thanks for watching, everyone. And as always, until next time.